I was born into a house that was not waiting for a child, but for a postponed dream. 6 times before me, daughters were born, and each time my father smiled to people and swallowed his disappointment in silence. And when I arrived, the last one, he looked at me for a long moment and decided to call me Daniel. And from that moment on, I was no longer just a baby girl, but a replacement. A role assigned before I could understand myself, growing up with a man's name carried on my shoulders like the oversized clothes I wore to hide my body, my hair cut short from early childhood, while my father proudly repeated that Daniel was a boy stronger than all the boys. I learned how to run before I learned how to cry, played football in dusty streets with boys, fought, fell, scraped my knees, and never returned home in tears because crying was forbidden. Followed my father to men's cafes and sat quietly among them listening to loud conversations about work and power and women, while cigarette smoke filled my lungs until it became part of me. And no one ever asked if I was comfortable because Daniel was not supposed to get tired. At school, I belonged nowhere, rejected by the girls and never fully accepted by the boys, trapped between two worlds that were never mine, mocked by girls who called me Daniel with cruel laughter, imitated my walk and smiled when I lost my temper. And I lost it often, fighting back with pushing and shouting not because I was violent, but because aggression was the only language I had been taught to defend myself. One day, the school principal called my father, and I sat outside her office pressing my hands together while she explained that what was happening was not normal, that I was being forced to deny who I was, and that this would leave deep psychological scars. And I waited for protection but received anger instead. My father grabbing my hand and insisting I was fine and that they did not understand. And the next day, he transferred me to another school where the place changed, but the wound stayed the same. Years passed, and I entered university carrying the weight of an entire lifetime inside me. And for the first time, no one knew my story, and no one whispered my name with mockery. And I became just a student with ambiguous features, neither clearly feminine nor fully masculine, believing that ambiguity might protect me. In the university library, I saw him, working among the shelves, calm and polite with a gentle smile. And at first, I went only for books, and then I started going for him, my heart racing every time I approached the counter, as if my body were learning a language it had long been denied, noticing his respectful gaze and quiet patience until something inside me shifted. One day, I asked for a book about psychology, and before he could answer, laughter rose nearby as a group of girls looked me up and down and asked loudly whether I was a girl or a man, freezing me in place, as if my entire life had been exposed in a single moment. And although he said nothing, I saw anger flash in his eyes as he looked sharply at them. But I still left the library trembling and went straight home. I locked my bedroom door and cried on the floor for my name, for my short hair, and for every time I wanted to be a girl and was too afraid to try. And that night, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time, and for the first time did not ask what my father wanted, but asked myself what I wanted. And I began to change quietly, choosing softer clothes, letting my hair grow, allowing my movements and voice to become less forced. And when my father noticed, he became angry and accused me of losing myself. And for the first time, I faced him with a trembling but firm voice and told him I was a girl tired of living as someone I was not, that this was not my name, and that I wanted to change it and live the way I was created. And his silence was heavy, but it did not stop me. A few days later, while I was sitting in a lecture hall reviewing my notes, the door opened and the librarian walked in, approached me and placed a stack of books on my desk, telling me they were a gift because I was always searching for them in the library. And then he admitted that he admired my courage and my choices and wished to meet me at the cafeteria. And I went, and we talked for hours about fear and identity and difficult beginnings. And admiration turned into affection, and affection into a quiet love that never asked me to be anyone else. Because he did not see a name or a strange story, but saw a woman. And in time, he married me. And on that day, as I wore my wedding dress, I felt like I was being born again, no longer Daniel, the person others had created, but finally myself.